When Sarah Mitchell found her husband's journal 3 years after he died in a car accident, she expected grief. What she didn't expect was to find entries dated 2 weeks into her future. Before we continue, subscribe, like, drop a comment, and turn on notifications, because I drop interesting stories like this always. Brookhaven, Massachusetts. Population 8,347. The kind of New England town where everyone knows your name, your business, and how you take your coffee. October 2019. Sarah Mitchell, 34, a high school English teacher, had spent 3 years learning to live with the ghost of her husband, Thomas. The accident that took him, a rainy night, a curve on Route 9, a guardrail that gave way, had been ruled a tragic mistake. But some mistakes, as Sarah was about to discover, are carefully planned. And some ghosts refuse to stay buried. What started as a widow's desperate search through her late husband's belongings would unravel into something far darker than grief. A journal, impossible dates, predictions that came true with terrifying accuracy, and a question that would consume Sarah completely. What if your husband knew he was going to die and wrote down everything that would happen after? This is a story about time, memory, and the horrifying possibility that we are all following a script we never agreed to read. Thomas and Sarah Mitchell were Brookhaven's golden couple, high school sweethearts who actually made it work. Thomas, a civil engineer with the county, had a reputation for precision and attention to detail. Outward, Sarah taught American literature at Brookhaven High and was known for making even the most reluctant students fall in love with poetry. They married at 26, bought a modest Victorian on Elm Street, talked about children but never quite got around to it. Friends described them as disgustingly happy. The couple who finished each other's sentences, who still held hands at the grocery store, who slow danced in their kitchen on Sunday mornings. October 17th, 2016, a Tuesday. Thomas left for work at 7:15 a.m., kissed Sarah on the forehead, told her he loved her. By 11:47 p.m., Sarah was identifying his body at Brookhaven General Hospital. The police report was straightforward. Heavy rain, reduced visibility, vehicle hydroplaned on Route 9's notorious Dead Man's Curve, crashed through the guardrail, rolled 3 times down a 40-foot embankment. And Thomas died on impact. No alcohol, no drugs, no mechanical failure, just bad luck. Sarah spent the next 3 years in a fog. She kept teaching, kept living in their house, kept Thomas's office exactly as he'd left it, his drafting table still covered with blueprints, his coffee mug still sitting on the desk, a thin layer of dust settling over everything like snow. She couldn't bring herself to sort through his things, couldn't face the finality of packing away a life, until October 17th, 2019, the 3rd anniversary, when grief finally gave her permission to let go. The office was exactly as she remembered. Late afternoon light filtered through the window, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. Sarah had brought boxes, tape, markers. She was going to do this methodically, professionally, like ripping off a Band-Aid. She started with the desk drawers, pens, paper clips, a calculator, old receipts, nothing remarkable. The second drawer stuck. She pulled harder, and it came loose with a crack, spilling contents across the floor. That's when she saw it. A leather journal, brown, weathered, with Thomas's initials embossed on the cover in gold leaf, TRM. She'd never seen it before. Thomas had never been a journal keeper. He was all spreadsheets and data, not feelings and reflections. Sarah sat on the floor, her back against the desk, and opened to the first page. The handwriting was unmistakably Thomas's. Neat, precise, engineer's script. Entry 1, October 1st, 2016. I don't know how to explain what's happening to me. I've tried to rationalize it, to find a scientific explanation, but I keep coming back to the impossible. For the past 3 weeks, I've been remembering things that haven't happened yet. Small things at first. I remembered that Mrs. Chen's cat would get stuck in the oak tree on Tuesday. It did. I remembered that the coffee maker at work would break on Thursday morning at 9:17 a.m. It did, exactly at 9:17. But yesterday I remembered something bigger. I remembered my own death. Sarah's hands began to shake. Entry 2, October 3rd, 2016. I remembered it in perfect detail. October 17th, Route 9, rain. I lose control at the curve. The guardrail gives way. I roll down the embankment. I die instantly, or almost instantly. There's a moment, a terrible moment, where I'm aware that I'm dying, where I see the dashboard coming at my head and I know this is the end. I've tried to tell myself it's just anxiety, intrusive thoughts. But these aren't thoughts, they're memories. And every other memory I've had has come true. Sarah's breath came in short gasps. This had to be fiction, some story Thomas was working on, except Thomas didn't write fiction. And the date, October 17th, was exactly when he died. Entry 3, October 5th, 2016. I tried changing it today. The memory said that Dave would spill coffee on his shirt at exactly 2:30 p.m. during the project meeting. At 2:25, I suggested we take a break. Dave said no, he was fine. At 2:30, he reached for his mug, knocked it over, coffee everywhere. I can't change anything. I'm remembering a fixed timeline. I know what's going to happen, but I can't stop it. It's like watching a movie where you're also the actor, but the script was written years ago and you're just discovering your lines as you speak them. The entries continued, odd, each one more desperate than the last. Thomas had tried everything. He'd called in sick on October 17th. The memory adjusted, and he died on the 18th instead. He changed his route. He died on a different road. He tried staying home. The house caught fire. Every attempt to avoid his death only delayed it by hours or changed the method. The outcome was always the same. Entry 8, October 12th, 2016. I've accepted it. I'm going to die on October 17th, 2016. What I haven't accepted is the rest, because the memories don't stop at my death. They continue. I remember Sarah's life after I'm gone. I remember her grief, her struggles, her small victories. I remember 3 years worth of her future. And I remember something else, something I wish I didn't know. Sarah flipped the page with trembling hands. Entry 9, October 14th, 2016. I remember that on October 17th, 2019, exactly 3 years after my death, Sarah will find this journal. I remember her reading these words right now. I remember the look on her face, the confusion, the fear. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry. Sorry for leaving you. Sorry for what you've been through. And sorry for what I'm about to tell you. You need to leave the house. Right now, don't pack. Don't think. Just leave. Because in approximately 4 minutes, someone is going to knock on the front door. A man named Marcus Webb. He's going to say he's from the county assessor's office. He's going to ask to come inside to check the property boundaries. Don't let him in, Sarah. Don't even open the door, because Marcus Webb doesn't work for the county. And he's not here about property boundaries. Sarah's entire body went cold. 4 minutes. She looked at the journal again, at the date Thomas had written. October 17th, 2019. Today's date. This was insane. This had to be some elaborate prank, some sick joke, The doorbell rang. Sarah sat frozen on the office floor, the journal clutched to her chest. The doorbell rang again, then a knock. Polite, professional. Mrs. Mitchell, hello? I'm from the county assessor's office. I need to verify some property boundary information. It'll only take a moment. Sarah's mind raced. This was coincidence. Had to be. Thomas couldn't have known, couldn't have predicted. This was just, Mrs. Mitchell, your neighbor said you were home. I saw your car in the driveway. The voice was pleasant, friendly, exactly the kind of voice you'd trust. Sarah forced herself to move. She crawled to the window, staying low, and carefully looked out through the gap in the curtains. A man stood on her porch, late 30s, clean cut, wearing khakis and a polo shirt with a clipboard in his hand. He looked exactly like someone from the county assessor's office would look. She watched as he rang the bell again, knocked again. Then after a long moment, he pulled out his phone and made a call. No answer, he said into the phone. Yeah, car's here. She might be in the shower or something. Should I wait? Okay, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. He walked down the porch steps, got into a silver Honda Civic, and drove away. Sarah waited until the car disappeared down the street. Then she waited another 10 minutes. Then she opened the journal again. Entry 10, October 14th, 2016. You didn't answer the door. Good, I knew you wouldn't. I remember you not answering. But you need to understand what just happened. Marcus Webb is going to return. Tomorrow. The day after. He'll keep trying. Because there's something in this house that he wants. something I hid. Before I died, I discovered something at work, something I wasn't supposed to see. County records that didn't match up, money moving in ways it shouldn't, a pattern of accidents, people dying in ways that looked natural but weren't. I started investigating, making copies, gathering evidence. I was going to go to the FBI. And then I started remembering my death. I realized that my accident wasn't an accident. The guardrail on Route 9, I had inspected it 2 months earlier. It was sound. But in my memory of the crash, it gave way like it was made of paper. Someone weakened it. Someone who knew I drove that route every day. Someone who knew what I'd discovered. I hid the evidence, Sarah. Everything I found. And I hid it somewhere that only you would think to look. Somewhere that Marcus Webb, and whoever sent him, will never find it. But I can't tell you where it is directly, because I remember that Marcus Webb eventually gets access to this journal. I remember him reading these words, which means I have to be careful about what I write. Sarah, do you remember our first date? Really remember it. Not the dinner, not the movie, the thing that happened before, the thing you made me promise never to tell anyone about because you were embarrassed. Go there. The evidence is waiting. Sarah's mind reeled. Their first date, 20 years ago. When she'd been 18, nervous, had made Thomas pick her up early because, oh God, she knew exactly where Thomas meant. The Brookhaven Public Library closed at 6 p.m. on Fridays. Sarah had 2 hours. She grabbed her keys, her phone and the journal, and drove the 6 blocks to the old brick building at the center of town. Mrs. Kowalski had been the head librarian for 37 years. She recognized Sarah immediately. Sarah Mitchell, haven't seen you in ages. What brings you in? Research, Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. For a lesson plan. She made her way to the back of the library to the local history section. It was exactly as she remembered. Dusty, forgotten, the place where old yearbooks and town records went to die. 20 years ago, before their first date, teenage Sarah had been at this very library, researching a paper on local architecture. She'd accidentally knocked over a display of historical photographs, sending frames and glass crashing to the floor. She'd been mortified. Thomas, who'd been there studying for a calculus exam, had helped her clean up. They'd laughed. They'd talked. By the time they'd finished, he'd asked her to dinner. She'd made him promise never to mention the incident to anyone. She'd been so embarrassed. But that wasn't the important part. The important part was what she'd been looking at when she knocked over the display. A book. A specific book on Victorian architecture in New England. She'd been so focused on it that she hadn't noticed the display behind her. Sarah's hands ran along the spines in the architecture section. Most were new, but there, on knocking the back pushed behind newer volumes, she found it. Victorian Homes of Massachusetts, 1850 to 1920. She pulled it from the shelf. Heavy, leather-bound. She opened the cover and a hollowed-out compartment cut precisely into the pages, and inside a USB drive wrapped in a note. The note was in Thomas's handwriting. Sarah, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you while I was alive. I'm sorry for everything. The USB contains everything I found, names, dates, financial records, proof of what they're doing. But you can't go to the police. Some of them are involved. You can't go to the county. They're all compromised. There's only one person you can trust. Her name is Detective Lisa Chen, Massachusetts State Police, Framingham Barracks. She's not from Brookhaven, so they don't own her. I remember you giving her this evidence. I remember her believing you. But Sarah, I also remember what happens next, and it's not good. I remember that after you give her the evidence, after the investigation starts, they come after you. Not immediately. They're too smart for that. But within 6 months, you have an accident, just like I did. I've spent weeks trying to figure out how to change this, how to save you. But everything I try, every warning I write leads to the same outcome. It's like the universe is determined to follow a specific script, except for one thing. There's one scenario, one single timeline, where you survive, but it requires you to do something I never thought I'd ask you to do. Something that goes against everything we believed in. Turn the page only if you're ready. Once you know, you can't unknow it. Sarah stood in the empty library, counted the journal in one hand, the USB drive in the other, and felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on her. She turned the page. Entry 15, October 16th, 2016. The only timeline where you survive is the one where you don't give the evidence to anyone. I know what you're thinking. People are dying, innocent people. The corruption I uncovered, it's not just financial. They're killing people who get in their way, making it look like accidents. Car crashes, house fires, heart attacks induced by untraceable toxins. The evidence on that USB could stop them, could bring them to justice, could save lives, but it would cost yours. I've remembered every possible scenario. If you give the evidence to Detective Chen, the investigation starts. Arrests are made. But before the case goes to trial, you have a fall down the stairs. Neck broken, ruled accidental. If you give it to the FBI, same thing, different method. Random mugging gone wrong. If you go public, publish it online, send it to the media. You last 3 weeks. Carbon monoxide leak while you sleep. They always get to you, Sarah, always. Because they have resources, connections, people on the inside everywhere. The only scenario where you survive is the one where you bury the evidence. Put it back, walk away, live your life. I know what kind of person you are. I know you'll want to do the right thing. But please, Sarah, please, I couldn't save myself, but maybe I can save you. Let them win. Let the corruption continue. Let the deaths go unanswered. Just survive. That's all I want. That's the only thing these memories have shown me that doesn't end with me losing you twice. Sarah read the words 3 times, then 4. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the journal. Thomas had known, had seen the future, and the future said she had to choose between justice and survival. She looked at the USB drive, so small, so much weight. Then she kept reading. Entry 16, October 16th, 2016 continued. I know what you're going to do. I remember it. You're going to ignore my warning. You're going to go to Detective Chen anyway. You're going to do the right thing, consequences be damned, because that's who you are. That's who you've always been, and I love you for it. Even knowing it kills you, I love you for it. So here's what I need you to know. The investigation that follows your death, it works. The evidence is solid, the arrests happen, the corruption is exposed, people are saved, your death means something, but there's more. There's something I remember that happens after your death. Something strange, something I don't fully understand. 6 months after you die, I remember a woman arriving in Brookhaven. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She's 34 years old. She teaches English at the high school. She moves into a house on Elm Street, and she has no memory of any of this. It's like the timeline resets, like reality folds back on itself. She lives the next 3 years almost exactly as you did, except she's never married, never met anyone named Thomas Mitchell. He doesn't exist in her memories until October 17th, 2019, when she finds a journal in a house she's never been in before. A journal that tells her she died 6 months ago, that tells her she's living in a timeline that shouldn't exist. I don't know what it means, Sarah. I don't know if it's real or if I'm going insane, but I remember it with the same clarity I remember everything else. Maybe death isn't the end. Maybe when people like us, people who get caught in these impossible situations, die, we don't just disappear. Maybe we fold into another version of reality, another timeline, another chance. Or maybe I'm just a man about to die, desperately trying to find meaning in random neural firings. Either way, I need you to know, I don't regret loving you. I don't regret our life together. And if you're reading this right now in this moment, in this timeline, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't save us both. Do what you need to do, Sarah. Follow your conscience. I'll love you in whatever timeline comes next. The journal ended there. No more entries, just blank pages. Sarah stood in the library, tears streaming down her face, holding the evidence that could bring down a corrupt network but would cost her life. Unless Thomas was wrong. Unless the future could be changed. Unless... Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Mitchell, Marcus Webb. I apologize for missing you earlier. I'll be by tomorrow at 10 a.m. to complete the property assessment. Please be available. It's important. Sarah deleted the text, picked up the journal and the USB drive, made a decision. Detective Lisa Chen was exactly as Sarah had imagined. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, a no-nonsense demeanor that put Sarah immediately at ease. They met at a diner 30 miles from Brookhaven, at Chen's insistence. You sounded spooked on the phone, Chen said, stirring her coffee. What's this about? Sarah slid the USB drive across the table. Then, because she knew how insane it would sound, she told Chen everything. The journal, the predictions, Thomas's death, the impossible memories. Chen listened without interrupting. When Sarah finished, Chen was quiet for a long moment. "I believe you about the corruption," she finally said. "The USB drive, the evidence, that's real, tangible. The rest," she paused, "the rest doesn't matter. What matters is stopping these people. Did you hear what I said about the timelines? About what happens to me? I heard you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. We'll put you in protective custody. It won't work," Sarah said quietly. And Thomas tried everything. He saw every possibility. They always find a way. Chen leaned forward. "Mrs. Mitchell, Sarah, I don't know about timeline or predictions or any of that, but I know about corruption, and I know about protecting witnesses. You let me worry about keeping you safe. You just did the hardest part. You came forward." The investigation moved fast. The USB drive contained everything: financial records showing systematic embezzlement from county construction projects, communications between county officials and contractors, and most damning, evidence of 3 previous accidents that removed people who'd gotten too close to the truth. Arrests were made within 2 weeks. The county supervisor, 2 councilmen, Marcus Webb, whose real name was Marcus Weber, a fixer hired to retrieve the evidence and handle loose ends. There were 3 contractors, a police sergeant. The news coverage was massive. Major corruption ring exposed in Massachusetts County. Sarah was kept anonymous in the reports, referred to only as a confidential informant. Detective Chen personally oversaw Sarah's security cameras on her house, check-in calls twice daily, a panic button, everything by the book. Sarah went back to teaching, went back to her life, tried to pretend everything was normal. But she couldn't shake Thomas's final entry. The one about another Sarah Mitchell, the one who didn't remember. She started having dreams. Strange, vivid dreams of living in a different Brookhaven, where she'd moved to town for a teaching position, where she'd never met Thomas, where her life was smaller, quieter, safer. The dreams felt more like memories. March 15th, 2020. 4 months after Sarah had given the evidence to Detective Chen, the trial was approaching. The prosecution's case was solid. Sarah had done it. She'd stopped them. She was grocery shopping at Brookhaven Market when it happened. A completely ordinary afternoon. She was reaching for a box of cereal when she felt it. A strange tingling sensation, like deja vu but stronger. She'd done this before, reached for this exact box, in this exact moment, but when? The tingling intensified. Her vision blurred, and suddenly she was somewhere else. She was in her house on Elm Street, but it was different. The furniture was arranged differently. The photos on the walls were different. There was no evidence of Thomas anywhere, and she was moving through the house like a ghost, watching herself, another her, going through the motions of daily life. This other Sarah was humming while she made coffee, grading papers at the kitchen table. She looked happy, unburdened. Then Sarah was back in the grocery store, box of cereal in her hand, heart racing. The strange episodes continued. Flashes of this other life, this other timeline, where she'd never married Thomas, never found the journal, never blown the whistle on the corruption, where she was safe. She told Detective Chen, who arranged for her to see a therapist. "Stress," the therapist said. "Trauma response. Completely normal given what you've been through." But Sarah knew it was more than that. Thomas had seen this, had remembered her in this other timeline. Maybe the timelines were bleeding together. Maybe reality was less fixed than anyone believed. Maybe April 3rd, 2020. Sarah was driving home from school when the car behind her ran a red light and T-boned her at an intersection. The impact was tremendous. Her car spun, glass shattered, metal screamed, and in that moment, suspended between heartbeats, between breaths, between life and death, Sarah saw it all. She saw Thomas in his car on Route 9, the guardrail giving way, the terrible moment of knowing. She saw another Sarah in another timeline, living a quiet life, never knowing about any of this. She saw a vast web of timelines branching and merging, people living and dying and living again in infinite variations. She saw that Thomas had been right. Death wasn't the end. it was a fold, a collapse into another possibility. And she saw one more thing, one final terrible truth. There was no timeline where both she and Thomas survived. Though they were entangled, quantum locked. In every reality where she lived, he died. In every reality where he lived, she died. The universe insisted on balance. The only way they could both exist was in separate timelines, never knowing each other, never meeting, never falling in love. The car came to a stop. Sarah's head throbbed. Blood ran down her face. Sirens approached, and she made a choice. She let go. Sarah Mitchell woke up in a hospital room. Her head was bandaged. Her arm was in a cast. Detective Chen sat in the chair beside her bed. "You're lucky," Chen said. "Concussion, broken arm, some lacerations. Could have been so much worse. The other driver? Drunk. He's in custody. Sarah, this wasn't them. This was just bad luck. A real accident." Sarah closed her eyes. She could feel it happening. The timeline shifting. In the full beginning. "I need you to do something for me," she said to Chen. "Anything. I need you to promise that the trial will go forward, no matter what. Promise me the evidence will be used, that they'll be convicted. Sarah, you're the star witness. We need your testimony. You have the USB drive. You have the documents. You can make the case without me." Chen frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need to know it matters. What I did. What Thomas found. I need to know it ends with them in prison. It will, I promise you, but you're going to be there to see it." Sarah smiled. She could feel herself slipping, the fold pulling her toward another existence, another possibility. "Detective Chen, can I ask you something strange?" "Of course. Do you believe in other timelines? In other versions of ourselves living different lives?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "I believe," she finally said, "that we make choices, and those choices define who we are. Whether there are other versions of us making other choices, I don't know. But I know that in this timeline, in this version of reality, you did the right thing, you saved lives, and that matters." Sarah nodded. "Thank you." She closed her eyes and folded. October 17th, 2019. Sarah Mitchell stood in her empty house on Elm Street, the one she'd bought 3 months ago when she took the teaching position at Brookhaven High. She was unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, making the space her own. She'd never been married, never met anyone named Thomas Mitchell. As far as she knew, she'd lived a quiet, uneventful life. No tragedy, no corruption, no impossible journals. She was in the spare bedroom, trying to decide if it should be a home office or a guest room, when she found something wedged behind the radiator. A leather journal, brown, weathered, with initials embossed on the cover. TRM. She opened it, curious. The first entry was dated October 1st, 2016. "I don't know how to explain what's happening to me," Sarah read, and read, and read. She read about a man named Thomas who had loved a woman named Sarah, who had died to save her, who had seen timelines branch and fold and merge. She read about corruption and evidence and impossible choices. She read about a USB drive hidden in the Brookhaven Public Library in a book on Victorian architecture. And she read the final entry, the one Thomas had written the day before he died. Entry 17, October 16th. So 2016 final. If you're reading this, it worked. The fold happened. You're alive in a timeline where we never met, where you're safe. You won't remember me. You won't remember our life together. And that's okay. That's how it has to be. But I need you to know something. In another timeline, we were happy. In another timeline, we loved each other more than I ever thought possible. In another timeline, you were the bravest person I ever knew. And in this timeline, the evidence is still hidden. The corruption is still happening. Marcus Weber, is still out there. The people responsible for my death are still free. You don't owe me anything, Sarah. You don't owe this timeline anything. You could put this journal down, walk away, live your safe, quiet life. But I know you. In every timeline, in every possibility, in every version of you that exists, you always do the right thing. So if you're reading this and if you choose to act, know that I love you. I loved you in the timeline where we were married. I loved you in the timeline where you died for justice. And I love you in this timeline, even though we'll never meet. The choice is yours. It always has been. Choose wisely. Choose bravely. Choose to be the Sarah I know you are. All my love, across every timeline. Thomas. Sarah Mitchell sat on the floor of her new house, holding a journal written by a man she'd never met, learning about a life she'd never lived. And she thought about choices, about timelines, about the weight of knowledge and the cost of action. Outside, a silver Honda Civic pulled up to the curb. A man in khakis and a polo shirt got out, clipboard in hand, and walked toward her front door. The doorbell rang. Sarah looked at the journal in her hands. Then she stood up, walked to the window and watched the man on her porch. Marcus Weber, whatever his name was. The doorbell rang again. Sarah made her choice. She picked up her phone and called Detective Lisa Chen at the Massachusetts State Police. "Hello?" Chen answered. "Detective Chen, my name is Sarah Mitchell. You don't know me, but I have information about a corruption ring operating in Brookhaven County, and I think someone is about to try to kill me." "Ma'am, slow down. What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about multiple homicides disguised as accidents. I'm talking about embezzlement, fraud, and a network of officials who've been operating for years. And I'm talking about a USB drive hidden in the Brookhaven Public Library that proves all of it." There was a pause, then Chen's voice sharp and focused. "Where are you right now?" "I'm at my house, and there's a man at my door who claims to be from the county assessor's office, but I don't think he is. Lock your doors. Don't let anyone in. I'm sending units now. Stay on the line with me." Sarah watched through the window as Marcus Webb rang the bell one more time, then pulled out his phone frustrated. She heard sirens in the distance getting closer, and she smiled. Because Thomas had been right. In every timeline, in every possibility, she always did the right thing, even if it killed her. Especially if it killed her, because some things matter more than survival. Some things are worth dying for. And in some timelines, maybe, just maybe, the universe folds in such a way that the people who do the right thing get to live. Not because they deserve it, but because every once in a while, reality decides that tragedy has had enough victories. Every once in a while, love finds a way across impossible distances. Every once in a while, the script we're following has a different ending than we expect. Sarah Mitchell stayed on the phone with Detective Chen as the police cars arrived, as Marcus Weber was arrested trying to flee, as the evidence was recovered from the library, as the investigation that would bring down the entire network began. And that night, as she lay in bed in her house that suddenly felt less empty, she could have sworn she felt something, a presence, a warmth, the ghost of a man she'd never met, who had loved her across timelines, who had died to give her this chance. "Thank you," she whispered to the darkness. The darkness didn't answer, but somewhere in the space between moments, between possibilities, between the quantum uncertainties that make up reality, Thomas Mitchell smiled. Because in this timeline, in this fold, in this impossibly fragile branch of existence, they'd both survived, not together, but alive. And sometimes that's the best ending the universe can offer. Sometimes that's enough. The journal was never found by the police. Sarah kept it hidden, a secret reminder of a life she'd never lived and a love she'd never known. But every October 17th, she felt it. A pull, a sense of someone just out of reach, a memory of something that never happened. The corruption ring was dismantled. When 17 people were convicted, lives were saved. Sarah Mitchell continued teaching English at Brookhaven High. Never married, never had children, lived a quiet, careful life. But sometimes, late at night, she would open the journal and read Thomas's words, and she would wonder about all the other Sarahs living in all the other timelines. The ones who'd married Thomas, the ones who'd died for justice, the ones who'd chosen safety over truth. And she would wonder which one was real, which one was her, or if maybe, just maybe, they all were. In quantum mechanics, they say, particles exist in multiple states until observed. Schrodinger's cat is both alive and dead until someone opens the box. What if people are the same? What if Sarah Mitchell is living and dying and living again across infinite timelines, making different choices, with loving different people, becoming different versions of herself? What if we all are? What if every choice creates a fork, a branch, a new possibility? What if death isn't the end but just a collapse into another state? What if Thomas was right about everything? Sarah doesn't have answers. She just has a journal, a life, and the absolute certainty that somewhere, in some timeline, Thomas Mitchell is still out there, still loving her, still trying to save her, still echoing across the vast, impossible distance between what is and what could have been. And on quiet nights, when the house settles and the world grows still, Sarah swears she can hear it. The echo. The whisper of a man who died 3 years before she arrived in Brookhaven. The voice of someone who loved her in a timeline she'll never remember. Saying the same thing, over and over, across every possible version of existence. I love you, in every timeline. I love you. Sarah closes the journal, turns off the light, and whispers back to the darkness. I know. Because maybe she does. Maybe some love is so strong, it transcends timelines. Maybe some connections run deeper than memory. Maybe Thomas Mitchell and Sarah Mitchell were always meant to find each other, even if they had to die 1,000 deaths in 1,000 timelines to make it happen. Or maybe Sarah Mitchell is just a lonely teacher in a small Massachusetts town, reading a journal written by a stranger, trying to find meaning in randomness, trying to believe that the universe has a plan, that death is just a doorway, that love never truly dies. We'll never know. But then again, maybe that's the point. And maybe the uncertainty is what makes it matter. Maybe the question is more important than the answer. Sarah Mitchell falls asleep holding the journal, and somewhere in the space between timelines, between possibilities, between the quantum foam of reality itself, Thomas Mitchell reaches across impossible distances and holds her hand. Just for a moment, just long enough. And in that moment, they are together. Not in this timeline or that one, but in all of them, in none of them, in the spaces between, where love goes when it dies, where it waits, where it echoes forever.